Okay, we're on page 218. And thus far, we have shown you how to solve percent problems when you were given the percent. This page is the first one that's going to give you some whole numbers. And you're going to decide which one's the part and which one's the whole. And then you're going to compute the percent. You might not quite understand what I showed you there, but I'm going to try to get you to recognize how if you just read carefully, it should be fairly intuitive about what you're supposed to do. So it says, the directions say, find a percent given a part and a whole. You can use proportional reasoning to solve problems in which you need to find a percent. So they give us a word problem here, and it's a school principal spent $2,000 to buy some new computer equipment. Of this money, $120 was spent to buy some new keyboards. What percent of the money was spent on keyboards? Do you notice we're given a number here that's not a percent? We're given another number here that's not a percent. And the directions want you to figure out which one's the part and which one's the whole. Well, the whole is how much money the principal spent on computer equipment, which was $2,000. The part was how much he spent on keyboards, and that was 120. So you set it up as 120 over 2,000. And then we're going to use proportional reasoning here. And proportional reasoning means we're going to write a proportion, which means two equal fractions. And we're trying to compute the percent. Percent means what? Percent means out of 100. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to recognize that to get from 2,000 to 100, first of all, the way I would actually do it is I would simplify by 10. If you simplify by 10, that's the same as crossing out zeros. So 12 200ths now can be divided by 2. What's 200 divided by 2? It's 100. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. The answer is 6 hundredths. 6 hundredths is equal to 6%. You can read through the way that they showed you how to do it, and they get the same answer. They get 6%. The principal spent 6% of the money on keyboards. We can actually check that on a calculator. What will I get if I do 120 divided by 2,000? That was the original fraction that we wrote. It's going to be 0.06. 0.06 is 6%. All right, let's move on to the reflect and the your turn. The reflect reads, write 57% as a ratio. Which part of the ratio represents the part and which part represents the whole, and explain. So we're going to write 57% as a ratio. That means as a fraction. Ratio, another word for ratio is fraction. So we're going to write it as 57/100. Actually, I'm going to write it like this. I'm going to write 57% is equal to 57 hundredths. And then it says which part of the ratio represents the part. That's going to be 57. And which one represents the whole? It's going to be 100. And then it says explain. Well, the whole is always going to be the denominator, the second term. So, and the part's always going to be the numerator. So, I mean, really, I guess I'll type that in. The part is always the first term, and the whole is always the second term. When it comes to percents, the part will always be the percent, and the whole will always be 100. Okay. All right, let's check out the your turn at the bottom of the page. It says, out of 25 students in Mrs. Green's class, 19 have a pet. What percent of the students have a pet? So this one would be like the computers at the top of the page. We've got a whole number here. We've got a whole number here, and we don't know the percent. We're going to find the percent. It says right here, what percent? So what do we do with these two numbers? Some kids might set it up as 25 over 19, but that wouldn't make sense because we're going to set it up as a part and a whole. Only part of the class has a pet, and that's 19 kids. The whole class is 25. So 19 kids have pets out of 25 total kids. Now I ask myself, how do I make that into a percent? If we had a calculator, we would just divide, but we don't need one because this one works perfect for proportional reasoning. And the reason why this works perfect for proportional reasoning is that because 25 is a factor with 100. So you can simply multiply by 4. 25 times 4 is 100. And 19 times 4 is you look on your multiplication chart, 19 times 4 is 76. 76 out of 100 means 76%. That's the answer, 76%. If we were using a calculator just to solve this, we would do 19 divided by 25, and we would get 0.76, which is 76%. My advice is that you copy this down into your notes. This right here for notes would be important. You want to know how to do this when you get to a checkup and a quiz. If you have this kind of stuff in your notes, it's going to be really helpful. Okay, great job. You're done with page 218.